Welcome to Newport for leg 5 of the 14th edition of the Ocean Race. Our teams are heading back to Europe and leg 5 is about to get underway.
Because the in-port race was cancelled yesterday, the first section of this coastal part of the leg is going to count towards the in-port race results. So yeah, it's a double points leg, and on top of that they've got an in-port race score that they're going to score today.
Well, many legs completed and still some to go, but today the stage is set in Newport and the conditions that we've got here are looking pretty good for racing. This is what's welcoming the teams out the water. And Sam, this is a real change from what we saw yesterday.
It's a bit of a different course this time because it's dictated by the Newport Harbour. So we've got the start right off Fort Adams. The boats will head off towards the harbour entrance, round the Castle Hill gate, and then they go back into the harbour through the start line gate, round Mark II, which is in the harbour, then towards the bridge, through the bridge, there's a gate to go through the bridge, round Mark III to port, back out through the bridge gate, around through the start line gate, and then heading off back out of the harbour for a final pass through the Castle Hill gate and the spectators on the point, and then out offshore around the Brenton Reef buoy, and then they'll be heading free out into the Atlantic to head towards Aarhus.
Timing, Abby, talk to me please. Okay, understood.
Skipper Kevin Escoffier, Sam Goodchild down below. With 15 seconds to go, I would say that the American team have nailed this time on distance. They started ahead, they pushed ahead, they got the speed advantage, and they are going to start very clean here. Surely this is the home advantage. This is knowing what those currents are going to do. And Charlie Enright starts the in-port race in Newport and the departure of leg 5 in first place with a very healthy 3 boat length lead. And this is great view here if Charlie Enright wanted to look behind, because there's a fight going on here. Yeah, Team Holcim PRB are pushing Team Malizia high. They are saying that Boris Herman has no right to go in there. Abby Ehler on the bow. She was pretty clear, pretty vocal as to what she thought about Team Malizia. I mean, Team Malizia had the speed there. I'm not sure whether Team Holcim PRB, while they had the right to close out the German team, whether they would have been able to. But either way, Team Malizia are through. We have umpires on the water, and if there's a decision and a penalty to be given, it will come to us. But look at the procession that's now formed after that start. We have got 11th Hour Racing Team a good way ahead. Then it is Team Malizia in second. Team Holcim PRB a little way to leeward in third. And Bioterm just trying to push up into fourth place. Yeah, it's going to be a big leg. And this is a great start for 11th Hour Racing Team. But as you say, there is a long way to go.
Next pressure, guys, in about a minute, okay? Expect tenor. I think it's a lefty.
Huge differences in speed here, isn't it? Huge differences stretching the boat out, but what an incredible start for 11th Hour Racing Team as leg 5 here in Newport gets underway.
This is a change because Nico Lundven has been helming all of the inshore sections and the in-port races. So on Malizia, he's off this leg, which means we've got a new helmsman. It's Jan Elias, 2 times Solitaire du Figaro winner, an amazing sailor. So it's not going to be, it's not a problem for Malizia. They've got another great helmsman on board. We can see 11th Hour coming towards the mark now, and it looks like they've chosen to tack around and not jibe around this gate. So there's obviously some tactical choices.
Again, the team that is deciding to make those different decisions, they've chosen a different decision with their headsail configuration, and Team Holcim PRB double down again with their tactics as well. They have decided to jibe. It's going to be the manoeuvre that keeps their momentum going a little bit better.
And yeah, I think it's a good choice to try that jibe. Tack is, as you said, it's a slower manoeuvre to do. Obviously, it's the right option tactically, but maybe the lower risk option is the jibe.
11th Hour Racing Team out in the lead at the moment, sailing over 12 knots. They're in the breeze. They need to stay on top of the in-port race series. That's going to be crucial to keep them feeling confident about ultimately taking that top spot. Team Malizia right now in second place here. There's an interesting thing happening with the maths here, but basically, to cut to the chase, if Team Malizia can get in front of Charlie Enright and 11th Hour Racing Team and put a boat between them, then Team Malizia will leave Newport in second place overall. But look at how close it is getting here with 11th Hour Racing Team and Team Malizia. It does seem like the Americans have really slowed up here. The speed now under 4 knots. I mean, Sam, this is getting a bit tight here for Charlie Enright to try and hold this lead. Well, a lot of work, and it's going to be crucial at this moment here because Team Malizia and 11th Hour Racing Team are now rounding that next mark. It should be a turn to the left, but 11th Hour Racing Team have left an enormous gap. The shift forced them to come lower. Team Malizia somehow managed to keep tighter to the wind, but still keep the speed with them. Now they turn around, harden up onto the breeze, and if it hadn't happened before, it's happening now. The wind is now coming into Team Malizia's sails first, and 11th Hour Racing Team are getting the dregs. And now is the turn of Team Wholesome PRB to see whether the trimmers and the information they've been feeding to the helm has made the difference, because remember, at the last turning mark, the Swiss team were back in 4th place. Bioterm tacked to follow the line of Team Malizia and 11th Hour Racing Team. And the jibe for Kevin Escoffier, maybe that made the difference. Maybe it was just the pure sailing. These two boats have traded windward position to leeward. But Kevin Escoffier now slipping up into 3rd place. A lot of hours on the water, testing it, learning the boats. I know that's what you guys have been doing around the world as 11th Hour Racing Team and Team Malizia attacking and trading places for first. We'll have to see exactly who leads at the next turning mark.
Also, everybody else on board are, feeling the sail, especially from the trimmer. We have the tendency to give him a lot of feedbacks. If you can go a little higher or lower, or if we feel that we're a bit inside the sail, it's really hard boat to sail.
An attack there for Bioterm. And Frankie, you were saying that the boat Bioterm, the way that's set up, there's a bit of a difference here. On board now with Malizia, and it looks like they're setting up for a manoeuvre.
Synchronized tacking.
Synchronized tacking, a very tight battle. Look at that, the furl almost happening precisely at the same time. I'm not actually sure which of the teams decided to lead that tack, who was attacking, who was defending, or whether it was just one of those lovely moments in sailboat racing where you decide to tack and you look up and you think, oh, Team Malizia right now to windward of 11th Hour Racing Team. This is the battle from of 1st and 2nd. A beautiful breeze. The spectators are there to greet them, creating a little bit of a wash for the two boats that are battling for 3rd and 4th, Team Wholesome PRB and Bioterm. But the two boats, the leading boats, 1st and 2nd, Team Malizia and 11th Hour Racing Team, are now under the bridge with plenty of clearance there. Every time that the ocean racers come to Newport, the bridge provides such an amazing spectacle as we're racing around Narragansett Bay. If anything's going to make an IMOCA seem small on the water, it's something like this. But right now, though, it's all about this race, and difficult to call here. As Tom was saying, Sam, there's not much between these two boats, but light winds, tricky conditions, the windward position surely is the safer bet. On board with 11th Hour Racing Team and Charlie Enright. At one point, their passengers are going to have to jump off, but the facial expression has not shifted. The concentration is still there, Frankie. I mean, he is locked into every boat length. Team Wholesome PRB now coming up to the Newport Bridge, about to go underneath in 3rd place. Bioterm back in 4th. The leaders, Team Malizia and 11th Hour Racing Team, getting near that first mark. Team Malizia about to tack and round, just holding themselves clear, keeping the speed, that little bear away, just building a bit of momentum before the tack, furling half at least of the J0 in, taking the boat through the breeze, and then the sail comes back out and back onto the power. And the boat lengths are starting to build in favour of this boat here as Jan Ellis quickly runs from one side to the other. Now 11th Hour Racing Team, they are tacking now to go round. But Sam, I mean, am I wrong here? It felt like there was a little bit of current in play. Team Wholesome PRB with the furl. Once again, Avi Ehler just doing the hard work by hand. Why not? Now unfurling on the new side. Big differences in breeze now. I mean, look at how much that bubble has absolutely torn apart the battle for third and fourth. Team Holcim PRB now tacking over, and just out of view on the right-hand side is the white mark, and they are about to go round. The distance here between these boats is only stretching as the wind gets very fickle indeed. And this is the view at the front right now. 11th Hour Racing team setting up very much to windward here of Team Malizia.
Yeah, I like that hatch as well. It looks like they're managing to get some air inside the cockpit. I guess it's probably pretty waterproof as well, which is, it seems like they have a nice cockpit set up.
And this is why we're seeing the flurry of activity now on Team Malizia. Let's join them for their jibe.
3, 2, 1, okay, cut.
I think the difference in the breeze here has run its course. It has gained for the American. They have closed up the distance, but looking at the angles now, it appears to be that Team Malizia is matching them on depth. Maybe 1 or 2 degrees different, but as they go past the lee of Rhode Island, it's going to affect the American boat more. 11th Hour Racing team is closer to the island, so they're going to get more instability. Might get a little bit of a turbocharge if the breeze is whipping round, but there's always that risk of being close to leeward to anything close to the breeze here. The Team Malizia, I mean, if anything, I'd say Team Malizia now are actually the lower boat here, Sam. By my eye, it's changing all the time. Looks like the Germans have got the puff.
So they're talking about the tide. They're wondering whether the tide's changing. If it's changed, they can't really understand exactly what's happening, so they're trying to work it out.
The course has been changed. The new bearing to the leaving gate is 230, distance 0.2 nautical miles.
Very handy for them to call out what the sea flag means there. All the sailors should know, but there we go, confirmation over the VHF. The course has essentially been shortened. The leaving gate has left Castle Hill and is now just in front of Team Malizia now. We're starting to see little bit of nerves on the face of Jan Ellis, just looking up at the main, just trying to find out where the breeze is going. Let's look at the speed difference below 2 knots for Team Malizia, above 5 knots or just dipping under for 11th Hour Racing team. And the course that Team Malizia is steering isn't really taking them across that line. This should have just been holding course for a couple of 100 meters and Team Malizia would take the 5 points.
Yeah, 11 Hour Racing just jibe, so I think it's just that, you know, the option that they have available at this point, they are trying to stay with the only breeze that they get, hoping that, you know, more breeze will come like behind them. As Sam said before, the jibe is always a really slow maneuver, and even that right now Malizia is starting to get a little bit more breeze, filling up the sail, and absolutely agree with Sam on the, you know, sometimes you just go on the J2 and try to float around without so much drag in the air.
This is a real difference in tactics here, and if you've tried to get your head around some sailing terms like VMG, this is it pretty much being played out here. Team Malizia are going slow, but they're pointing straight to where they want to go. 11th Hour Racing team are going much faster, but they're pointing in the wrong direction. Where does that all come together? And I think the clock has pretty much run out for 11th Hour Racing team. It's certainly in Team Malizia's favour. The patience of Jan Ellis and the cool-headed decision to keep the bow down and just keeping the boat creep has paid off. It's certain now the 5 points for the import race in Newport is with the German team. Jan Ellis keeping that boat sailing well. Charlie Enright deciding to put the extra manoeuvres in to get to the new breeze. Now they're going to have to pop those main battens with very little pressure in the sail. That's always the risk with the light wind jibes. It's a good performance here in Newport, certainly in those opening stages, and definitely from that start. They knew how the current was going to play into that time and distance, read the breeze perfectly, got off the line in first place, losing out in that upwind section to Team Malizia. But now the American team across the gate, closing off that import section and getting 4 points to their import race series and holding on to first place in the import series. And because of that, still holding on to second place overall. Look at the spectator fleet now out there on the water, and they're going to force Team Malizia into a jibe here.
Their boat speed on your AIS screen, so just like we can see the boat speeds with the virtual eye, they can see that too. So there'll be someone looking on the computer, maybe it will be Charles Enright, inside the boat, and reporting that back to work out where to go and where not to go.
Our Team Wholesome PRB are now through. They will be using those boats ahead. They will be using everything they can because they have an opportunity here to try and close up. Ahead of them is 11th Hour Racing Team, and ahead of them is Team Malizia.
And what about the points for the In-Port Race? You're happy?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, are we one step ahead?
Yes.
Well, the import, this one we won, and the overall ranking, I don't know.
Maybe you can ask the people.
Yeah, we asked to
the viewer.
the viewers, what is the consequence of this? Are we now second overall or still third? You tell us, huh?
Oh, okay, Sam, do you want to tell him? Because that's not the way that my maths is working out here.
No, well, I said it was you had to explain that to the viewers because it's just too complicated for me to explain.
But just to be clear, Boris Herrmann on Team Malizia, they had an opportunity to move into second place overall because they were joint on points with 11th Hour Racing Team, 18 apiece. And they could do that if they climbed a place above in the import series. But they were only going to do that if they finished this section with a boat between them and 11th Hour Racing Team. Sadly, they didn't. So they've closed up, but it is not enough. It means that 11th Hour Racing Team are still at the top of the import series, now only by 1 point, but because they are still ahead of Team Malizia, they are still looking strong. They are still in second place overall. So 11th Hour Racing Team, not the perfect performance here in Newport, but a good one.
Great start. Wasn't really clear what the threat was when we got around that mark, whether it was the guys along the Newport shore or the high road with pressure. But, you know, we keep banging out seconds in the import race, we're going to be just fine. But now we got 3,500 miles to Denmark. Maybe it'll be this close all the way. Who knows? It's felt like that. But just a big thank you to everybody that came down. Absolutely amazing.
Well, the current standings from the departure with Team Malizia in first place, 11th Hour Racing Team in that tight battle, but ultimately just losing out in second. Team Wholesome PRB in third place, Bioterm in fourth. From Guyo Environment, Team Europe unable to take to the water today, scoring 0 points for the Import Race Series. The maximum 5 going to the Germans. So what does that do for the import race overall standings? Well, it closes things up at the top as well as move Team Wholesome PRB up into third place. 11th Hour Racing Team still in the lead with Team Malizia in second. The Swiss team up into third, pushing Bioterm down into fourth place, only by 1 point for the moment. A wonderful display of some very impressive sailing here in Newport. Really good from all of the teams. My big thank you to Sam Davis and Francesca Klapčić for joining me in the commentary box. A good display of what these sailors can do here as Biotherm is coming down to the gate. Strong performance, but ultimately we will have to wait to see who gets to Aarhus in the lead. Aarhus set to be an incredible stage as this race continues.